Hey there again, this is Dr. Miles with Justin's Lighthouse Recovery Program. Today I want to talk about the lies we tell ourselves. We did a really good group on this last night for family time, but I want to make a little shorter version just so you can watch it quickly and at least get the substance of it. Addicts and alcoholics have many things in common, which is good news because that makes the recovery process the same for everyone. Even though an addict or the alcoholic who's trying to get sober can really complicate things, the solution isn't that complicated. And the lies that we tell ourselves, or the narrative, or the belief system is so overpowering that it takes some time for the recovering addict or alcoholic to work through it. But that's what I want to talk about. So what does that look like? What are these lies that we tell ourselves? Well, it's important to start with an understanding that the addict, and when I say the addict, I'm just going to shorten this. I'm talking about addicts and alcoholics. Anybody with addictions, and it doesn't even have to be substance use, any kind of extremely self-defeating compulsive behavior, just put that in the addiction category because this applies to you too. They see the world from a shame perspective, meaning in every situation that they experience, they're viewing it from the position of, am I enough? Am I good enough? Why aren't I good enough? When can I be good enough? What do I need to do to be enough? And the rest of the world, normal people, whoever they are, I've heard they're out there. The rest of us have to kind of learn what normal is supposed to look like. That's what recovery is about. Normal people are able to separate their identity from their experience. In addiction, the person's identity is tied to their experience. Or another way to think of it is tied to their performance, and even tied to other people's opinion of that performance. So it can sound complicating, but you addicts out there, you know what I'm talking about. So we call this the shameful, shameless dynamic, and it's what it really boils down to is living a life of kind of mental extremes, interpreting every experience from a position of either shamefulness or the complete opposite extreme of shamelessness. And I'm going to give you some very specifics. So, you guys will recognize it, and I think a lot of our families will too. That's why we like to do this topic for our family group. But in shameful mode, the person is feeling less than human, right? I'm a loser. I'm never going to amount to anything. I'm unacceptable. I'm deficient. I'm nothing but a big disappointment. I'm disappointing. I'm disappointed in my own underachievement, my own screw-ups. There's a deep-rooted sense of inadequacy, helplessness, can feel very disconnected from their peers or any given situation, from life, from the world, and tend to think of themselves as the family rebel. Maybe even get labeled that, the family rebel. Well, he's the wild child, or she's the crazy chick, or whatever. That's why it's under the category of lies we tell ourselves, right? That's not true. But that is literally what's going on inside of the addict before change occurs, before growth occurs. And when we're in shameful mode, we have no expectations whatsoever. The addict has no expectations. Nothing's going to work out for me anyway. Why should I try? Which is also driven by a fear of failure. Remember, it's identity based, and so if we're unsure if our performance is going to be successful, then the addict won't even try. You're right. We've already checked out, because underachieving to an addict is devastating, because they don't perceive it as, oh wow, okay, I now I see the things that I need to correct, and now I'm going to work a little bit harder or make some adjustments. What the addict sees is I'm just a failure. I told you all I couldn't do it. I knew it wasn't going to happen. And then, we turn that around and it becomes shamelessness. In shameless mode, now we're on the opposite extreme. And it's important to understand that this dynamic is present together all of the time. So think of it as a coin, right? Shameful is one side of the coin, and shameless is the other side of the coin. And so the addict is constantly flipping this coin, and there's no way out. Either completely underperforming or believing that they have to outperform. And of course the dysfunction of that is the bar or the standard that gets set with the addict. If I can just achieve this certain level, then I can be acceptable, is always unrealistic, right? Superwoman couldn't achieve some of the bars that an addict can set for themselves. In shameless mode, now we're in more than human. And not performing more than human, but believing that we have to perform more than human just to be acceptable. Well, that's ridiculous, right? But what's happening is remember, we're coming from a shame perspective. So the addict isn't able to separate their performance from their identity. In a healthy person, they can make that distinction. Okay, well, I did the best that I could, and maybe I fell short, maybe I've got a little bit more longer runway I need, maybe I need to make some corrections, but they don't lose their esteem, they don't lose their sense of self. In addiction, or this deep-rooted sense of shamefulness, they're always tied together, and so that's where the shameless mode comes in. This is a coping mechanism. This is to compensate for shamefulness. Well, I'm just going to outperform everybody now. Families will recognize this dip and this kind of this decline and then this incline. We can go through a really difficult period. We crash and burn, and we lose the house and the car and the dog and the girl and the job and the esteem and dignity and all this stuff. Very quickly, as we're rebounding, as soon as we start to feel a little bit better, very quickly the addict rolls into, well, you know what? This is bullcrap. I don't need this, I don't need that, I definitely don't need treatment. I just need to get back to work, get my car, get my phone back, get a new girlfriend, get a new apartment, put my life back together, get my things that make me feel better, or maybe even a more accurate way to think of that is the things that we need so we don't feel bad, right? Because in shamefulness, we see the world from a negative orientation. So the addict isn't seeking to succeed for the sake of success and accomplishment. The addict seeks to succeed, not to fail. And that's why we drink, that's why we use, that's why we continue to self-destruct, that's why we end up putting ourselves in positions that it's never going to help us, it's always going to hurt us. So listen to this shameless category. This idea that now we've gone from, these transitions can happen instantly. Some of you may have even recognized it. 1 minute where, the addict is feeling sorry for themselves. Oh my God, I can't believe I did it again. I'm such a loser. And within minutes, we can shift into, you know what, this is bull crap. It's not even that big a deal. Y'all are blowing this way out of proportion, and all I did was drink a little bit, and so what? I did get fired, but I was going to quit that place anyway. That's what shameless looks like. Okay, so this idea that we have to be more than human just to be able to perform, perceiving help as a sign of weakness, or even the need for help or accepting help as a sign of weakness. And so we will reject help. We need to go it alone, right? The only problem I have is you guys. So if you would just get off my back and let me do my thing, but of course I need you to fund my thing. I need you to, if you just get me caught up on my car payments and pay 6 months of my rent, and if you'll fund my new strategy, I can take it from here. And of course, families of addicts may have years of that kind of behavior, and that's the dysfunction of the family dynamic. That's why we spend so much time talking about it. in shamelessness, and this belief that the addict has to have it all together in order to be okay. Now think about how unrealistic that is. Nobody has the ability to have it all together at all times, and yet that's the standard in the addict's mind, because the shame is so overwhelming. The only way we can compensate for it is now I just have to be better than, which is insanity, right? So what's missing? What's missing is balance. What's missing is the middle. What's missing is this ability to be human, right? Shamefulness is less than human, and shamelessness is this idea that we have to be more than human. In shamelessness, you see a lot of all or nothing attitude. Just forget it. I knew it wasn't going to work out. If you would only blah blah blah. There's no compromise. There's no solution exploration. Everything's very polarized, black and white. You guys failed me. We'll never accept responsibility. It's always someone or something else's fault. And in shamelessness, remember, we're talking the opposite extreme of shameful. So now we go from having no expectations to having unrealistic expectations. And I just kind of gave an example of that, but it doesn't have to be that dramatic. It can be as simple as, let's say, and we see this one a lot in our residential program. Not a lot, but I've certainly seen it over a 20-year period, once or twice a year. Person has basically lost everything, right? Been to 5 of the rehabs, always a short-term program. It's never going to make any difference long-term. And as soon as they start to feel better, they start thinking, you know what? I got this. Shoot, I don't need any more rehab. I just need to get back to work, and then I'm and I just need to put my things back together. And that's a person who hasn't yet dealt with their emotional junk. And unrealistic expectations can be as simple as, putting pressure on yourself that by this time next week I've got to have a job. By this time next week I'm going to have my car paid off. By this time next week I'm going to, which is a great goal if it's realistic, but those aren't the goals that addicts set. They're always unrealistic because they're not centered in reality. They're centered in a high need to not feel bad. And that's why you'll see very short periods of what seems like success followed by longer periods of failure, for lack of a better word. Right? We can put it together for short periods of time, and that's what shamelessness, that's the only benefit of shamelessness. But even that is a trick, because that's not really what's happening, but the addict can pull it off for a while. We've mastered the shameless mode. And our families can go along with it too. They'll be like, oh, I swear to God, I've got this time. If you just set me up, so I don't have this pressure, and I don't have my financial anxiety, then I'm really going to fly. And our families, they believe that. They want to believe that. We sound sincere when we say that. The reason why it's never worked, and any family member of an addict who's watching this will attest to this if you're being honest, it has never worked. And it's not because the addict is a failure and doesn't have the capacity for it. It's because they've never dealt with their emotional junk, and until change occurs, they will always see the world from the perspective of shame. And that's the significance of long-term recovery programming. It gives the person time to work through this junk. It's not going to happen in 30 days. That is the most ridiculous thing ever. That'd be like, oh, I've got stage 3 cancer, and but I only want cancer treatment for 28 days. So if you can't fix me, then I'll just go to another place that says they can. That's ridiculous. It takes what it takes, and the people who make it in recovery are the ones who are committed to that process, whatever it's going to look like, right? And the more you get honest with yourself about the past, the easier it is to accept that truth. Well, I haven't pulled it off yet. Like, a lot of you guys know my personal recovery journey. I was 38 years old by the time I finally said, okay, clearly my way doesn't work. Okay, but this video isn't about me. Let me tell you what the solution looks like real quick. Shameful, shameless, two opposite extremes. Is it any wonder why anxiety is so prevalent among addicts? Restlessness, the need for instant gratification, shifting between these two extremes on an emotional level, on a mental level, is exhausting. It's chaotic, and it will always keep the person in dysfunction. So the recovery process is geared toward moving the healing, dealing with, why would a person even have such a shameful perspective in the first place? What's going on with that person that they question whether or not they're good enough, right? That's trauma-based. Okay, so we've got to give ourselves time to learn and to heal and work towards human, right? Where you're going to make some mistakes, and you know that you're going to make mistakes, and you're willing to give yourself permission to make some mistakes, not as an excuse for bad behavior. Well, Dr. Miles said I could make some mistakes. No, I mean, keeping ourselves accountable, but recognizing we're just human. We don't have to have it all together today. We just have to do the best we can, right? And you are enough, even though you may not have performed at the level you hope you can perform at. Right? You're growing, not growed. Right? That's a joke. I know it's grown. Another critical one is, remember, in shamelessness, the addict perceives accepting help as a sign of weakness. Well, in recovery, that's a big one. Right? It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to receive help, even if it's uncomfortable. As you achieve all of these things that look more like human than they do subhuman, it's going to be a very uncomfortable process at times. But what's really uncomfortable is waking up in your own vomit or getting rushed to the hospital and your family's not sure whether you're going to live or not, or having to get injected by some stranger on the street with Narcan because you just OD'd. That's uncomfortable. Recovery is nothing compared to what our active addiction looks like, or our active alcoholism. Waking up, when I did an intervention one time, this guy had so many liquor bottles and beer bottles on his bedroom floor, we literally could not see the carpet. And anyway, I'll save my testimony or my case studies for later, but the human aspect of life is critical. And achieving that begins with developing your own identity, discovering who that is. Who is that guy really? Not who he feels like, or she, but what is he or she really? Think about that for a minute. Well, I don't know. I'm good at some things. Okay, great. Those are things you can do. Well, what about when you don't do them well, or you don't do them at all? Well, how does that relate to your value as a person? Oh, well, I feel like crap. There's the problem. Therein lies the problem. In humanness, a person who is strong in their own identity, excuse me, is strong in their own identity, can always keep that separation. So regardless of their performance, their esteem doesn't change. Their sense of self doesn't change. It's critical to be thinking in terms of this idea that, and it's okay, we're not going to be recovered. We need to constantly be aware. Every day, every week, every month, we are seeking recovery. So we are recovering, but it's okay that we don't arrive at a finish line. That's actually how normal, healthy people live. Right? It's never over, always willing to learn stuff, always growing. That's all recovery is. Lasting recovery begins with this perspective, or this maintaining this attitude that I'm in this for the long haul. This is my new lifestyle. I'm going to learn who I am, and I'm going to make a list of all of my values and my goals, and then I'm going to be willing to learn how to follow those, to live up to those. And in a realistic perspective, it's not going to happen overnight, right? I've got to work towards it. I'm going to get my hands dirty, and I'm going to get smacked upside the head along the way, and I'm going to be told no, but I'm going to keep striving towards my goals. Learning how to be open and vulnerable is a big one for learning how to be human. You know, all of these, I can give you all the bullet points, like no pretense. Human looks like no pretenses, having fear but moving forward anyway, recognizing that we're not perfect, but we're acceptable. That's enough. We are enough. Even though we may want to perform at a higher level, great, increase your skills, but it doesn't change who you are. Being forgivable, allowing yourself to be forgivable. Now, I've heard so many times, and I did this too. Well, I know that my family forgives me, and I know that God forgives me, but I just can't forgive me. And what we're saying is until I have performed my way back in to a standard or to a level that I will feel comfortable with, earn it, then I will forgive myself. That's not change. That's shameful, shameless. That's as long as I can earn my way back so I don't have to feel bad, then I'll think I'm forgivable. That's how dangerous this dynamic is. It is literally killing us, and I think it's one of the single biggest areas that people who are in and out of rehab, in and out of 12-step meetings, in and out of sobriety and addiction, never deal with this aspect, right? It's, you dry out, you feel better. Of course you feel better because you haven't put poison on your brain for 30 days. And you get excited and, oh man, life is going to be great. The problem is you never really dealt with your junk. You didn't know how to deal with your junk. And so very quickly, especially right after leaving a short-term treatment program, we're all shameless, right? We're all, oh man, I'm going to conquer the world. Cool, my mom's going to get me a new car. My granddad's going to set me up with a new apartment, and everybody's excited. And oh my God, little Johnny, he's finally going to live up to his potential. And can be days, can be weeks. I've seen people have unbelievable life set up for them before they left rehab and get drunk on the way home. They never even made it to that new apartment. They never even got to drive that new car. Everybody's thinking wrong. You'll know when real change occurs because everyone's thinking is different. Everyone's planning is different. The decisions that get made aren't based on everybody feeling better about the situation. Decisions get made based on actual behavioral changes. I always tell families, look, moving forward, it doesn't mean you can't help the person. It doesn't mean you can't help your addict loved one. It means that you help them after you see them helping themselves, right? Because in the past, what we did is, as family members, we helped the addict and believed the promise that they would live up to it. And then, of course, they let us down every time because they're stuck in shameful, shameless. They still see the world from a shameful perspective. So the solution, how we get to human, is probably going to need rehab. If you're still watching this program, you're probably deep into it. You're a full-blown addict alcoholic. You probably need to go to a long-term program. And you can always check out Justin's Lighthouse. We take people from all over the country. And our website is justinslighthouse.com. But strategically what needs to happen, and this is why it takes some time, is we got to admit that this lie is over. We've got to learn how to develop our own identity within ourselves, not compare ourselves to what we think the world expects from us. We can be surrounded by people that are constantly telling us, oh, we're so proud of you. You have so much talent. You have so much ability. You can do that. Everybody believes in us and the addict except the addict. And that's not a trick, it's not a game. That's literally how the addict views themselves. That they're only as good as their performance. And this thinking, this self-perception didn't happen in addiction. It got developed long before use ever even began. So by the time we get to opportunities to drink and use, it's on, right? That's why we jump into it so heavy and so deep. Because finally, for the first time at 15 or however old you are when you started, there's a sense of relief. It's like, wow, I feel most like myself when I'm drinking, right? Which is very sick. We should feel most like ourselves when we're not drinking, right? That's a person who is lost. So the fixes aren't quick. The solutions aren't overnight. It's a process. Just like it was a process to develop full-blown addiction, it's a process to move past it, to heal, to change, to learn new ways of thinking, to gain a new realistic perspective. And then it's on. And then it's on. The sky is the limit, right? I've been working with people for 20 years, about as long as I've been in recovery. Justin's Lighthouse has been around for about 17, 18 years. We've seen every kind of case. I can personally relate to every single kind of case. And the solution is always the same, no matter how severe the problem was. Okay, so I appreciate you watching this video. Please share it. Check out our website at justinslighthouse.com. You can call us day or night. We answer the phone most often. I mean, literally 11 o'clock at night, midnight sometimes. You can always send us a text message. You can get the phone number off the website. Check out our YouTube channel if you're not on it now, at Dr. Miles K. Lewis, Recovery Ranger, or our Facebook channel, which is Miles K. Lewis. I think we're on TikTok as Justin's Lighthouse. I think we're on Instagram as Justin's Lighthouse. I'm still kind of catching up with our social media stuff, but we are here for you. And if you've got a particular topic you want more information on, shoot me an email at dr.milesk.lewis@gmail.com. Thank you for watching.